Okay, we're going to show you how to install the keypad repair kit in the Panasonic KX-TGA270 phone. First, what you do is you just take the battery cover off, take the battery out, and there's two screws down here at the bottom. We're going to take those out. Now what you're going to need is some rubbing alcohol for cleaning. Isopropyl alcohol, 70% or 90% is the best. We're going to need a small flat screwdriver, small Phillips screwdriver, and a cleaning rag, maybe Q-tips or old toothbrush. Once you get the two screws out, you can grab the top and the bottom housing and kind of pry apart a little bit to give it some pressure. And then we take the flat screwdriver and we put it in that slot and just slide it up to where you can't push it anymore. And then just tweak it a little bit. You're not jamming the screwdriver, you're not prying, we're not damaging the housing at all. So that clip came right off, and I'm going to, again, spread this out. Ooh, and the next one popped out. If it doesn't, just do the same thing. The next one's up here above this little notch for the belt clip. And you just slide up there somewhere, and that one comes out really easy at this point. There's two on the other side, but I never have to deal with those. Usually I'll just rock it a little bit, wiggle it, and you don't want to be pulling on it. You don't want to, at this point, you don't want to be trying to pull it apart because there's several wires. There's wires here. All models don't have this, but all models have this wire to the speaker. And if you just pull the back off, you'll rip those wires right off. And while we're talking about that, some of them have wires, some of them don't. They just have little springs that rest on little square pads. If you have the little square pads, I would recommend using a Q-tip and rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and cleaning those springs off and cleaning the pads off. Because they're pretty old and they tend to have problems with the battery contacts inside the phone. Anyway, this one doesn't have that. And there's a screw up here on the antenna. And once you take this screw out, it's the same size as the two you took off in the back of the housing. The antenna plastic part is still holding the board down, so you got to pull that out. It doesn't really come out. We're going to wait for that. Take these two down here off on the charging terminals. And these are shorter. And we got to keep those separate. You don't want to put the long screws back in down here. Okay, now I'm going to just use the flat screwdriver because it's hard to grab anything, just to get this board up high enough where I can pick it up. And oh, here we go. The wire for the antenna was bent a little bit and it wasn't releasing, so I'm going to bend that up so you can get that antenna pulled out far enough. And then I'm going to flip this whole thing right over like that. And turn it like that. There we go. Now, the keypad fails because oils leak out of the rubber, and it gets filled with, the black wears down, and it gets filled up with oils and black residue. You need to clean that off, and I usually just wet a rag with isopropyl alcohol and give it a good cleaning. This one is very good condition. Doesn't really need it, but there'll be oil on this keypad too. Just get most of that off. The repair kit blocks. It sits down, sticks down to the circuit board like that, and then the keypad's on top. So the oils and dirt from this cannot get on your circuit board again. So this is a permanent solution. You'll never have to worry about it again. So I've got that cleaned off. Before we put it together, a lot of these are dirty in here. And if you don't mind dirt, you can just leave it or maybe clean it from the outside with a toothbrush and alcohol. But if it's sticky from a spill or anything like that, like some of the buttons actually go click, click, or this one too, like if you spilled coffee or soda in a long time ago, you can pop this out now and clean it off with just soak it in some hot water and soap in the sink. I'm going to get some tweezers and pull this out. It's very easy to come out, but it's got all these plastic posts. There we go. So you could just take this out if you need to, clean that with a toothbrush and alcohol, and clean this very gently. These will break off pretty easy, but if they do, you can still put them back in one at a time. So let's pretend that's all done. We didn't need to do that. So now we got the keypad. Pretty easy to install it. There's a notch for the microphone, and there's holes, 4 holes cut out for these LEDs, and then it just lines up square with the sides of the board. So you just pick away at a corner of the brown paper liner and just peel that off slowly. If you do it too quick, it'll rip in pieces and just be a pain. So I got that, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to put it right down on the microphone. It comes off, and if you do line it up wrong, you can just peel it right off and try again. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can see this one here doesn't look quite centered, but these black dots are larger than the black dots on your rubber keypad, so that shouldn't have a problem. You just don't want it hanging off the edge of the board, you know, too much slanted, crooked, or anything like that. Okay. Oh, and this part here is the headset jack cover. It'll fall out. It fell out while we were taking this apart. We're going to put that back in. You want to put the rubber keypad back in over here, not over that, because you'll never line it up right. Just put that in there. You may have touched or gotten dirt or whatever, fingerprints on the LCD screen. I'd clean that off, and maybe even if you had to do a lot of cleaning, you might have done stuff in there. There might be dust. If you have a air can, I like to blow that off, or you could dry Q-tips are good in here, but sometimes little bits of the stuff will get off in there, and then it's really kind of noticeable when you put it back together. So we got it all clean, the keypad installed, and I'm going to flip this back over again. And there's one pin up here and a hole for it. I'm going to try to get that in place like that. Line it up straight, and then you can push that antenna back in. And I'm going to put that antenna screw in first. And that'll keep everything in place. Now we got the 2 charging pins. Now these have a little notch near the screw hole, and then on the side that touches the battery charger has a little notch. The notch goes into holes at the bottom of the housing. So take that notch first, and just you can figure out, okay, it doesn't fit in here. Obviously it goes over there. And just get those back in the right place. It'll be pretty obvious if you don't have them in the right place. The 2 short screws, just want these pretty well hand tightened, not super tight, but tight. Don't want to strip the screws out. And then before I put the back cover on, I'm going to just slide that headset jack back in. There's a little notch that goes in there. And then we start up at the top. There's a big clip. Just put that top in place like that, and the rest of it will all just snap together. These need to be, of course, there we go. And it all snaps back together. You got the 2 screws. And that's all. At this point, all the buttons will work perfectly if you clean that circuit board off good and install this keypad. If you do have any weird problems, like say a lot of buttons don't work, it's probably because one of these or these little ones, usually it's the little ones that are kind of stuck in crooked underneath the housing. They're like wedged way down like that permanently. So you can just sort of visually see that, or maybe press each button and see if any of them feel like they're stuck. Maybe something happened. But if a button is held down, any of these are held down, like none of the buttons will work, or a good majority of them won't. And that's it. Thanks for watching.